everyone, Amanda here. Welcome back to Handmade Not Hallmark. Today I've got this cute card featuring some awesome products from Hello Bluebird's new May release. I'm super excited to use these. This was one of the very first sets I wanted to use. This is the Word Buddies Jungle set. I also have the Charlie alphabet dies. I'm also going to be using my A2 Stitch STAX Dynamics from MFT. If you hear some barking, it's just the puppy. And I'm using the Tiny Words Sentiments from Simon Says Stamp. I've got a card panel here, top folding card base out of some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. And I also have a piece of green cardstock I found in my stash. I'm trying to use up a lot of my scraps, so I'm not particularly sure what company this is, but you could use any green cardstock that you like. And I have it cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to be using some Rustic Wilderness and some black soot distress inks, and I'm just going to be ink blending around this plain panel just to give it some depth and dimension. I really like doing this with colored cardstock because I think it adds a lot of depth and interest to the card panel, because this is going to be like my pattern paper or my background piece. So I want it to have some interest. Now, it's not the focal point of the card, but I'd like it just to be kind of interesting instead of just a plain green cardstock in the back. So I'm just taking that Rustic Wilderness and I'm going around the edges, and I want the center to be a little bit lighter than the edges. And then I'm going to take the black soot and I'm going to go around the edges as well and ink blend those. So I want it to be darkest to lightest, just to kind of create like a vignette. And I do apologize if you hear a lot of barking. Puppy likes to bark at our cat. He's been around him for a while now, but he still likes to bark at him. I think he just likes to see if the cat will play with him, and the cat's not interested in playing. He's a little bit older and he's just not interested. So I do apologize if you hear some barking. Now that I got that panel all ink blended, I'm going to clean off my mat here, and I'm going to spritz it with some shimmer spray just to give it some, some interest again in the background. And I'm going to hit it with my heat gun. Once I get that heated up and dried off a little bit, I'm going to set it off to the side, clean off my mat, and get ready to do some of my coloring. I have already chosen a few images from this stamp set. I chose the monkeys and the gorilla, and if you watched my haul video, you'll know that I am ecstatic about this set, especially this little gorilla. He was the reason that I purchased this set. He's just so cute. I love his expression. I am stamping the images on some Neenah Solar White cardstock with some MFT Extreme Black ink because I'm going to be using my Copic colors today. All the colors I use will be listed on the screen. I'm going to put on some music, and once all the coloring is finished, we'll come back and finish up this card together. Now that all the coloring is finished, I use the coordinating dies to cut out all of these cute images. I just love how perfect these dies are. I got them lined up great. All of them look amazing. I love that they cut out around the little tails as well. So super sweet. I just love these so much. Next, we're going to take our background panel, and I'm going to use the largest of the A2 stitch stacks from MFT and cut out my panel so I have some nice stitching, and then that way it also leaves a nice border around as well. Now I'm going to take all of the letters that I die cut. I cut them out of Neenah Desert Storm cardstock and some chocolate cardstock. I'm not exactly sure what type of cardstock this is, but it's brown, so any kind of cardstock will do. And I'm just kind of doing like a drop shadow effect on here just to give some more interest and kind of thicken up the letters a little bit. This process, it took me a while. I'm not going to lie. This process and adding all the foam tape behind them did take a while. So I'm just going to let this play, and I thought I would kind of talk about how I got into card making. I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned it before in any of my videos, so I thought maybe I would do it now since I kind of got some time here while I'm assembling all of these letters. So it was probably back in 2016 that I decided that I wanted to try and make my own holiday cards. Christmas is my favorite time of year, if you guys don't already know that. And I just was like, you know what, I want to try to make my own cards. I've made gifts before. I've always been very crafty and creative, all through high school, and I've always been very creative, so I thought, well, maybe I could give it a whirl. So what I ended up doing was, as I started doing some research, and oh, real quick, let me get back to the card before I get into a tangent. So I wanted to add just a little bit more interest to this background panel, so I took the same distress inks that I used, and I just did some splattering with some water. It kind of fades out in the background, but it's still there enough to kind of just add some interest. And then I also took my white gouache and I did the same thing. I did some splattering in the background, just again to add some more interest to the panel, just to kind of, add to it. I didn't want it to be so boring and plain. I know a majority of it's going to be covered up, but I wanted just to have something back there. So here's where I'm going to take my white gouache, and I just used some water and a paintbrush, and I'm just flicking it on the background by tapping the back of the paintbrush, and I'm just going to set that off to the side to dry. And I really like the way this turned out because it kind of adds, like I said, some interest in the background, and it's going to kind of help pull in some of the white I'm going to add later on in the card. Now we're going to go ahead and take this panel and we're going to attach it to our card base with some Tombow Mono multi-glue. Get that pressed down, and I'm going to stamp an image on the inside of this card. I couldn't help it. I just love all of the stamps in this set, and I wanted to add something on the inside. I had thought about adding like a sentiment or a greeting, but I decided to just stamp this little gorilla image because I want to write a nice greeting on the inside here. If you follow me on Instagram or on my Facebook, this card was for my dad. He's been feeling pretty under the weather and a little bit down, and I thought he would really enjoy this card, so I want to have enough room to write something sweet for him. Now into the hard part. I am going to take these Darice 3M foam strips, and I'm going to cover the backs of all of these letters. Now again, this did take me a while, so I'm going to go back into my little tangent about how I got into card making. So again, like I said, I was researching online about making handmade cards, and I stumbled across Christina Warner's YouTube page, and I just started watching, and I fell absolutely in love. I, got my very first set of, cards, and I, of my card making supplies, and I started making cards. I went to, all the local stores. I didn't know anything about online shopping with greeting cards. I just went to my local craft stores and looked there, and it kind of all spiraled from there. I just did a lot more, research online, found out about all these different companies, and it just blossomed from there. So I've been creating cards since 2016, and my progression from where I started to where I am now has completely changed. I'm going to insert a picture here of my very first Christmas card that I ever made, and it's just incredible to see, you know, how you evolve and adapt from where you start and the knowledge you gain from, you know, continuing with a hobby. And, you know, you can really see a change in how your style is, the things that you like, the things that you don't like. And I just am just kind of speechless about how my cards have evolved from, you know, that first picture to now. And I'm so proud of myself that I've continued with this, and I can't wait to make some more. So here I am kind of laying out my card. I fiddled and fussed for quite a while, and I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted them placed, and it wasn't until I got out the second part of my greeting that I realized I wanted to lift these letters up a little bit. And I did it very carefully, and I only had one area tear. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't really noticeable. I ended up being able to cover it up. So I had room at the bottom to put my little gorilla, and it just worked out perfectly. It was just very careful to not, you know, really tear the paper. I think maybe if this, you know, background panel, the paper was a little bit thicker, it wouldn't have tore so much, but it was a pretty thin piece of paper from my stash. So once I had that moved up, I was a lot happier with the way it was looking. And this is where I decided to start my other greetings. And I was just going to do this get well soon. And I decided that there were so many great greetings in that Simon Says stamp set that I wanted to use a few more. So I took out the get well soon. I took out the you got this and you can do it sentiments. And I wanted to do little strips of these greetings in between to kind of really tie everything together, you know, really let him know that we were thinking about him and that he can get better and that he's going to get better and that, you know, everything's going to be okay. I took some Versamark ink and some Brutus Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder and embossed these onto the same brown cardstock that I used in my drop shadow letters. Once I had all of those stamped, I took my heat gun and I heated those up and ran them through my die cutting machine. I took those same 3M foam strips that I used on the letters to attach the images as well as some Tombow glue just so that they were all the same height. And I got those all lined up where I wanted them, stuck them down, and I was really loving the way that this card was turning out. It turned out so sweet. My one boy looked at it and he thought it said hang on there, because this little guy here I'm putting on is hugging the eye, and he thought it was an O. He thought it was meant to be an O. So I was like, no, it says hang in there. And he's like, it looks like an O. So we had a nice little conversation about that. But he kind of have a point. It looks like it could say hang on there. And then this little guy here, the way that the die cuts, it cuts kind of around his little paws, so it looks like he could really hang on to the letters. And as you can see here where that tear was, I just took that gorilla and I covered over that spot so you'd never know it was there. And then I'm going to take these sentiments here, and I thought about leaving the flagons on, but I just decided to cut those off. I thought they looked better without, and I used the same 3M strips to attach those to the panel. I used the Get Well Soon down by the little gorilla because I feel like he is looking a little down, and the Get Well Soon is really encouraging. So, and then I just kind of fussed where I wanted to place these other ones, and I thought maybe adding one near the top would kind of fill in some of that space there. And I really like the way that they kind of overlap a little bit. You got this, you can do it, hang in there, get well soon. And I just love doing this, adding, you know, some extra sentiments in there. Now I want to add some details to my little images. I just took my Sakura black gel pen and added some highlights to their eyes just to kind of cheer them up a little bit. And I added some white gel pen to the cheek areas. I had put some red or kind of like a rosy cheeks. It's kind of hard to tell on the screen. And I thought about adding some highlight to the letters, but my gel pen just didn't want to write on this cardstock, so I just opted out. I took my aqua shimmer pen, added just a little bit of shimmer, just because this is a card for my dad, and I don't think he would like to see too much shimmer. And then I took my sequins that I got from my recent haul, these clay hearts, and added a few here and there just to show that love and to kind of bring the white splatter back in. And I really love the way that this looks, and it just turned out great. I love the odd numbers, and I'm attaching these down with some multimedia matte. And that will finish up this card for today. I want to thank you guys for coming by my channel. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button as well as the little notification bell so you don't miss out on any more videos here on my channel. And if you liked this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and show your support. Again, I thank you guys for coming by. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I will see you guys again real soon in the next video. I'll see ya. Bye.